Can I ask a question?
I'm just wondering what publication you're from?
I'm from the Nacke Loeb School of Communication.
Sure. Okay, go ahead, sir.
I just have one question.
Yeah.
Hello and welcome to Free Press, Free Speech, Free Classes. We are at the Nacke S. Loeb School of Communications. My name is Kimberly Haas. Today we're at the school to talk a little bit about the programs that they have to offer their students. I'm joined by David Terrell Wysocki. He is in charge of the school here. Welcome to the program, David.
Thank you, my pleasure.
We wanted to talk a little bit about the Nacke S. Loeb School of Communications because it truly is a hidden gem. It's located in Manchester,
Yep.
and you offer quite a few classes. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about yourself first to start, and then how the school got started.
Okay. I worked for the Associated Press based in New Hampshire for 32 years as a general assignment reporter. And part of my goal as a reporter, in addition to the job, which was reporting the news, was also taking part in workshops and sessions to help break down barriers between different professions and the media, finding out how the media worked, finding out how law enforcement worked, so that we could do our jobs together instead of being in conflict perhaps. So that part of my job segued very well into becoming a part of the school, where we offer a lot of classes on communications and workshops on media relations. And we partner with other groups that also offer workshops to help media relations with nonprofits, media relations with public relations people, media relations with law enforcement. So they both kind of are very related in my mind.
Now, how many courses are taught here at the school?
We have a rotating schedule with probably 20 to 25 classes. We run 15 a year, 3 sessions, 5 classes each. The sessions are on Wednesday evenings. The classes are 90 minutes long, once a week for 6 weeks, and they're free, covering everything from, as I said, the First Amendment to all types of writing, social media. We also have another schedule of workshops, which are half-day or one-day workshops that cover things like public speaking, social media for business, writing news releases, writing newsletters, and we have a half-day class, Facebook for the fun of it, which was filled with grandparents. So it's a variety, and it attracts, the classes and the workshop attract quite a variety of people. We attract everyone from middle schoolers and homeschoolers to retirees, and they're in the same class.
I'm really glad that I get to hear that from you, because we feel the same way in community television. We have people from 13 to 88 years old that take advantage of that open opportunity for people. And to offer these workshops and these classes for free or very low cost really is a benefit to the wider community. We took Telling Your Family Story here, and I'll tell you, it was an excellent class on so many different levels. Not just because I'm a journalist and I'm a reporter, but also too archiving your family photos correctly, keeping that family history there so you can start to follow your lineage and meld your families together is just an excellent, excellent time. And I got a lot out of the different instructors. You have instructors from many different places. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your instructors.
Certainly. And Telling Your Family Story is a great example. It's one of our more popular workshops. And the idea is to teach people interviewing skills, which really are listening skills, to learn how to get your family story, whether it's from grandma or grandpa, your uncle who's a veteran, or also a lot of folks come from historical societies to learn how to interview people in town. And the faculty for that day included everyone from Fritz Weatherby, who is New Hampshire's storyteller, to Meg Heckman and Mike Pride, who write for the Concord Monitor, wrote a wonderful moving book about veterans in World War II, Meg also is an instructor here for our news writing class. That class also included an archivist to talk about how to save your documents and photos, a videographer to show how to put these stories on tape. So that's an example of who we get, people who do this for a living. Our instructors are from all types of New Hampshire businesses and media outlets, not just the Union Leader. We have several instructors from the Union Leader, but also instructors from the Concord Monitor, Public Radio, Channel 9, the Nashua Telegraph, businesses throughout the state who come and share their expertise. And to me, that's what makes it exciting. An instructor can walk into a class and say, guess what I did today? And that becomes part of the class. And the students, who I mentioned are such a wide range, are here because they want to be here. It's not a required class. So you have students who want to be here, instructors who are getting paid, but they're not getting rich, so you know they want to be here too. And it's a great combination. The students and the instructors come early, stay late. I have to flick the light sometimes. The class is over, we're on our way. But it's a great combination. And if I can give an example of the real life hands-on instruction, Tom Fahey, who was the State House Bureau Chief for the Union Leader, was an instructor for a political reporting class. And the class was on a Wednesday, the day after a state primary. And he called it around noon and said, I don't think I'll make it on time today. His class started at 5, and he said 5 p.m. is when candidates have to report as to whether they want to have a recount. So obviously he would be covering that. So I said, look, send me the news releases, send me the material you're working with, send me the developments as they occur if you can, just the brief email. When your class gets here, they will work on the same story you're working on with the same material. News releases from candidates, the latest voter count, who showed up shortly before 5. And when you get here, you'll be able to compare your story with theirs. And that's what we did. They were working on the top story of the day at the same time as their instructor was working on the top story of the day at his desk at the State House. And when he came, they were able to discuss, why did you choose that? Why did you choose that? Why was this fact higher in your story and lower in mine? A perfect example of the hands-on instruction from somebody who does it for work.
The people who are actually working in the field really are the best instructors because they're on top of what's happening and what's going on locally. You also have courses I feel like you can never get in adult education. I mean, courses with attorneys, things of that nature. I mean, you can literally come here and hear from an attorney working in the field what the latest is on the First Amendment.
Exactly. And Greg Sullivan, who is a First Amendment attorney who has argued at the state Supreme Court many times on access cases, First Amendment, right to know, freedom of the press cases, presents cases to his class or will present a question. It's almost like pulling the pen and throwing a hand grenade and then watching what happens afterward. He'll say, well, what about such and such? What would you do in this case? And there's a great discussion in the class and not always a single definitive answer. Then the class is saying, well, what is the answer? He said, who knows? It could be what you said. It could be what you said. What is the merit of doing it your way? What's the merit of doing it your way? They have great discussions, but it also gives the class a real hands-on feel of the First Amendment and how it evolves. It's not a document that's in a showcase in Washington for people to walk by and nod to. It's a working document that changes every day. I mean, who knew? Certainly George Washington and others who were working on, and Alexander Hamilton, Thomas Jefferson, working on the Constitution, what is social media to them? Who knows? You know, First Amendment right now is a key factor in social media. And there are major cases all the time and major questions, including things like, should a prospective boss be able to require you to give your password to your Facebook account during a job interview? Is that a First Amendment issue? Should you be able to say no and have it not affect your interview? Who knows?
And we are with Joe McQuaid. He is the president of Nakias Loeb School of Communications. He is also the publisher of the New Hampshire Union Leader. How are you today?
I'm great, Kimberly. Thanks for coming here. It's nice to get the message out to the Derry audience.
And we're hoping that this will be distributed beyond Derry, so members of the surrounding communities can also learn a lot about the great work that's being done here. Many people call this school a hidden gem in New Hampshire. I'm sure you would agree.
Yeah, we're trying to make it more polished than hidden, but it's a long process. And when people find out about it, and David Tero-Wysocki, who's the director, does a lot of field work speaking to groups, they go, gosh, I didn't know about that. What a great concept. So we're happy to have you.
Thank you very much. Now, I understand you were very involved in the formation of the school when it was originally founded. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about how the school was founded and what your involvement was and what Mrs. Loeb's involvement was.
Sure. Well, it starts with Mrs. and Mr. Loeb, who always wanted to find a way to keep the independence of their newspaper. There are very few independently owned newspapers of any size in the country. They were owned by chains or that sort of thing, and they thought that that was not the right fit and the right voice for a little independent state like New Hampshire. So they struggled through the years with it, and Mr. Loeb came up with one plan, which unfortunately didn't satisfy the tax consequences. So his half ownership of the paper was reduced greatly by the tax bill. And so Mrs. Loeb kept looking around for years, and she would talk with me and with her attorney, Greg Sullivan, and with other members of the Union Leader organization. And we happened upon the Poynter Institute, which is a larger unknown gem outside of the news media field, which was started by a gentleman named Nelson Poynter in St. Petersburg, Florida, where he owned the newspaper. And he started an educational institution, and he asked that his stock go to that institution upon his death. Mrs. Loeb was interested in that idea. The people at St. Petersburg were very helpful to us and to our attorney in finding out just exactly how that worked. And Mrs. Loeb decided to start a school. And she would have kept the school, even if it didn't work out as the repository of her stock. The school started about a year before she died. And her idea for the school was to, again, she's a very clever woman. She wanted people to read because she owned a newspaper. So she wanted to, as she said, improve communications among the people of New Hampshire. Teach young people how to write better, get them interested in reading. Hopefully they'll buy newspapers. So that happened, and then when she passed away, she directed that if the IRS had given its blessing to the school as a 501c3, that her stock go to the school. And that is, in fact, is what has happened. And with David Tero-Wysocki as the head of the school, we've been able to draw a lot of people in, fine teachers, and a lot of students. And the students range in age from 10 to 70s plus. And the school gets rave reviews. And David might have told you that he can't kick the people out of here at the end of the classes. Because these aren't people who are mandated to go to school. They're here because they want to learn. And they have so many questions for the teachers that the teachers have a tough time getting out as well.
Well, it really is a place where there are so many different programs and programs for everybody. And things that are covered here are things that you can use in your own life on a personal basis, just in writing a short email to your boss or a coworker. Communications is very, very valuable and important. I'm sure you would agree.
Oh, absolutely. And it's interesting. My other life is as publisher of the Union Leader, as you mentioned, and we compete with a lot of other news media in the state. And yet people who belong to those news media teach here, and some of them take courses here. We've had teachers here from the Concord Monitor and the Nashua Telegraph, and WMUR-TV has taught a broadcast course since the inception of the school. So it's a real collegial effort. I think the other news media recognize Mrs. Loeb's idea that, listen, we better get people to communicate if we want to survive ourselves.
Absolutely, and the protection of the First Amendment is so important. It's a freedom that we have in America that many times we take for granted.
We have a First Amendment event every year in which we honor people, and we have a speaker in, and that's actually the main fundraiser for the school every year. And it's been quite successful and is another way of getting this hidden gem out to more of the public.
Now, if a person wants to contribute to this school, how would they go about doing so?
Well, they could go online to lobeschool.org, and there is information there on contributions. Some of the students contribute. An awful lot of the classes that we give are for free. There are a couple of money-making classes that we give to people who are advancing their business knowledge, which helps pay the rent. But most of the donations come from people who just like the idea of the school, or businesses which help underwrite that First Amendment event that we have.
And like you said, since it's a nonprofit, people can actually use that for their own tax purposes.
Oh yeah, everybody. This is a bona fide, it's an interesting organizational setup where a school is allowed to own a for-profit business, in this case the newspaper, but the school is strictly nonprofit. And we have a pretty much arm's length relationship with the newspaper.
Okay, so I noticed that he was pointing a lot. Were there ones where you were able to stop the action of the point? Good. I also noticed that he moved around. Yep. Did you notice the different exposures? Yep. So maybe this was a little too hot, but over here was nice. So
And a little bit on one side.
a little bit on one side, and that can act, you know, directional light can be really cool.
Yeah.
One thing that I was really impressed by all of you, you kept on shooting. That's great. That's a hallmark. When you think you're done, you're never done. You just got to keep shooting. I was impressed that you got close. If you've ever been in a scrum with a lot of photographers, it's elbows out, and sometimes you have to be that way. I mean, you have to be not aggressive, but assertive.
I wrapped it myself.
And video guys are the worst. 2 hours before an assignment. That's my spot. It's my spot. Okay, any questions before we start downloading, and then we're going to be going right into lunch. Any questions? Yes, Daryl.
I have a lot of shots where it's
Hi, my name is Judy Window, and I am the president and CEO of Granite State Ambassadors. And I also have a company called 311 Management Services, and I'm a teacher here at the Nackie S. Loeb School of Communications.
And I'm Kate Messner, and I'm a student of the Nackie S. Loeb School of Communications, and I've taken lots of classes, and including Judy's social media, and love it here.
Every 4 years, we run a training class for the New Hampshire primaries, and over the course of years, we've worked with the Nackie Loeb School. And so 4 years ago, when I spoke with David, he came and helped me put a panel together to help teach our Granite State ambassadors all about the New Hampshire primary and how to speak on camera, how to answer interview questions, think of our talking points. And that happened again this year in January, right before the New Hampshire primary. And then I took a class here, a public speaking class, which I had recommended that he start. So I thought perhaps maybe I should take it. And had just started my company at that time. And social media had just started getting really popular, and I was very interested in it and did a lot of work in the social media area. So he asked me if I would start a social media class here, and that's how I started teaching.
I started with news writing and social media, and the way the classes are scheduled, you can actually do 2 on the same evening, which is very nice too. And the news writing class, I'd say the biggest thing I took away from that was I gained such an appreciation for how hard they work to be non-biased. They really work at that. I tend to have my opinions and stick by my opinions, but I so admire how they manage to do that. And that's the way it should be, to reflect both sides. So that was a great class. And Judy's social media, one of the things she didn't mention was she lets you into her world and shows you the tools she uses and gives you the link to her library of tools, which is invaluable. She's actually made me want to start a social media business.
A lot of people come in and take the class more than once. I talk to a lot of people offline. I've developed a lot of relationships offline, out of class, with my students and their businesses. Either they've had me in to talk to them, or I always offer free, in the light of NACI Loeb leadership, just free services by just calling me and asking me questions. I'm always glad to answer them.
It's extremely doable because 6 weeks you can handle. A semester is usually much longer. Then there are also the workshops, which are just a day and start in the morning and you have lunch here and then finish up after lunch. It works out beautifully. It's very, very convenient.
And I should mention, through all of these courses, the focus isn't really on teaching people what to write or what to draw in our cartooning and illustrations class, but how to develop an opinion, whatever it is, and then how to persuade someone, perhaps in a cartooning class or the editorial writing class, how to persuade someone that your opinion is right. Most of the people who come here will never have a story published in the paper. Most of the people coming here will never have a photograph published in the paper. Many have, or on websites, which is now even more likely. And many have started blogs. We have a blogging in columns class, and they start blogs in this room and post during the class. In the social media classes, they set up accounts and post in the classroom. But some people have become freelance writers and have been published, but others write back and say, you know, I'm communicating better. At whatever I'm doing. I'm writing better emails, I'm not wasting people's time, I'm writing better papers at school, writing better memos at work, which is also a point that we try to get across. It's communicating in whatever way you would like to do it, whether you want to get into the media or whether you want to write a more concise memo at work that gets your point across in a persuasive way.
Well, that's the value of the education in general, David, to be able to communicate better. It is called the NACI S. Loeb School of Communications.
Absolutely.
And that's really part of the focus. I know during the course that we took, I took away a lot. Like I said earlier, it wasn't just to help me hone my skills as a reporter and video producer. It really helped me a lot with archiving, like I said, or, you know, trying different techniques, perhaps. And I'm sure a lot of people at home don't intend to ever be published in the paper or never really want their own blog. But to be able to take pictures of their children better, to be able to videotape those wonderful events like those first steps, to be able to do all of that better and in a more advanced nature, getting the courses here must just be so valuable to them.
Well, I think so. I mean, a simple tip, you know, from a photographer, many people take pictures of their children and they're standing up, and the kids are always tiny and looking up from the floor. You know, kneel down to their level.
They've got lollipop heads.
Yes, well, and that's something Jeff Forrester talks about in his course. Or when you're trying to think of a way to start a story about your grandpa. One of the instructors, and I think it was Fritz, said, imagine you are sorting socks and you have a huge pile of socks and there are a couple of red ones and a couple of green ones and a couple of brown ones. Which ones do you sort first? You sort the red ones and the green ones and the brown ones. And why? Because they stood out. Well, use that approach when you're thinking about all of the information you've just received from someone. What stands out? What got your interest? What got your attention? And that might be a good way to start a story. So there are tips that work in all forms of, all manners of life. So we think it's very useful, and one of the things I like to say is you will learn something today that you can use tomorrow. And it's not necessarily theory. You can read about that on your own. It's information from people who use the theory, who have the skills to use the theory, and are willing to share those skills with you so that tomorrow you can do whatever it is better.
Well, like anything in life, you can read a lot of books about it, but until you actually do it, it's a whole different ball game.
Sure.
Thank you so much for your time today, David. Is
My
there anything
pleasure.
else you would like to add?
I think you've covered it very well. We encourage anyone who is interested in communications or just learning about topics that they might not have a chance to otherwise to come on in and see us. It's easy to register for classes on our website, which is lobeschool.org, or just give us a call here at the station, your station. Give us a call here at the school, 627-0005. We'd love to see you in class.
Thank you so much, David. And for more information, go ahead and get online and go to the website that David was telling us about. It's very easy to use. You can also call us at our station for some more information about it. You can find all of my contact information on the Town of Derry website. All you have to do is go to Town Departments and then Cable Television. Once again, my name is Kimberly Hawes. Thank you so much for watching the program today.